Hey everybody, what's up, man? Welcome to the Retro Rewind with the Ricktator. Tonight we have special guest Mr. David Fleming. We'll get him on here in just a second. We're going to go over just a couple things. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about DC because, well, DC sucks, and I want to talk about him anyway. So that's just about how that works. David Fleming's going to get on. He's going to get an opportunity to talk about his newest Kickstarter, Analog Mission Oberon, and we'll talk a little bit about his first one that came out, Analog Missions Apollo. So, like I said, we'll get an opportunity to talk about that. Learn about the man behind the awesome books and everything like that. And like I said, we'll kind of go from there, and hopefully it'll be fun. If not, it is what it is. Thanks for joining in either way. And worst case scenario, we just get to listen to me babble for about an hour. That's about how that works. So, welcome to the Retro Rewind. All right, man, welcome back. And we got my man, Mr. David Fleming in the house. Like, I'm the only one clapping, and now my dogs are barking. Okay?
I'll add to it.
Of course, my dogs are barking. They're like, who's clapping? What's going on down there? So, hey, listen, man. First of all, thank you for joining the show and jumping in and, I don't know, just babbling with me for about an hour about all the cool stuff you're doing, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited. As you know, I like to babble as well, so I think this will be a good babble sesh.
I think that's actually how we met.
Yeah.
we met at a con and we were babbling. That's about
pretty much.
That's about how that works. So obviously you know how I work. I like artwork and I like a 90s flow. That's just how I roll, man. It's got the nostalgia, it brings me back. And so, like I said, I remember I think it was was it Fountain Con? Planet. Yes, that's right. It was Planet. Okay. So anyway, we saw each other at Planet. I saw the art. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and it gave me an opportunity to stop by your booth and say what's up and kind of go. Is you sure it was Planet?
I'm pretty positive it's Planet because I don't think I did Fountain that same year, but I think we'd already had formed our relationship by then. You know what I mean? Like I remember knowing you guys already by then.
Back when there was such a thing as cons before our Earth split. It's hard to remember which cons you went to and stuff like that. So you're right. I'm pretty sure it was Planet. I'm going to take your word for it because it's easy that way. Otherwise, I'm going to hurt myself. So anyway, I know that a couple people were, like I said, just joining into the show and everything like that, but I wanted to make sure that I gave everybody an opportunity to know a little bit about the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. David Fleming, man. So tell us a little about yourself, brother.
Yeah. So like you said, I'm a local Kansas City artist, and back when cons were a thing, it kind of became. I've been doing this for about 5 years now. I think if Planet did happen this year, which, man, it bums me out so much that it was like the week of that when it all hit the fan. It was gonna be my 5th year of doing it. I'm a high school art teacher, and I started about 5 years ago, just trying to push myself a little bit further in my art and kind of on the side. And then just everything kind of in between, all that kind of stuff just kind of caused me to get into this. I've been making and doing Kickstarters and trying to put the actual books out there for only about 2 years now, but the sort of time to take it serious, time to really remember what inspired me in the first place to be an artist kind of stuff has been for about 5 years.
No doubt, dude. Hey, so and that's one of the things that I myself, like I said, this is not for me, but I myself have been working on a book for probably about 2 years. And a lot of times, man, people like, hey, I should write a book. That's totally what I should do, but they have no idea that like a brainchild like that, it's not a sprint whatsoever. It is literally a marathon. Like you have to take your time and ease into the hot water. Otherwise, man, it's just not going to happen. And I tell you what, a little bit other stuff about you though is that you're not originally from here.
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're not.
Yeah, I've been in Kansas City for a good minute now. I went to high school in Kansas City, but I was born in Virginia, and then I was there for like probably till about middle school. Then my family moved around a bunch, hung out in New Zealand and Fiji. We did a little bit of world traveling. Ended up actually in Manhattan, Kansas for a minute before we hit Kansas City, and then going to high school. That's actually when I met my now wife, and that kind of like got me settled down and stayed here for that because of all that.
I've said this before on the show, but behind every good man is a great woman. So,
oh yeah,
really, I would say like, bro, why did you come to Kansas City from Fiji? But really, you're looking for your wife. So that's about
right. Yeah. That's what she always says. It was because I had to find her. So.
Well, like I said, this goes to show she's a good woman, man. That's about all that's worth, man. Now we at Phoenix Comics backed Analog Missions. Back when you did your first Kickstarter, I believe, with Apollo. Awesome book. We still have it. We have some signed. I don't think we have any more signed copies. Thinking about it, I think all of our signed copies are out the door. But I remember we did pick up some more copies back when you can actually have human interaction. Can't remember when that was, but I do remember picking up some more copies. So whoever's watching, either now or later or whatnot, because it's going to go up to our YouTube. Make sure you guys stop by the shop and get yourself a copy of Analog Missions Apollo. But right now we have Analog Missions Oberon. So kind of give us like a rundown of how Apollo leads into Oberon. Without, I guess, like spoiling the story.
Yeah, that's actually, it's really funny. I was talking to another artist friend of mine today about this because I told him, I was like, I'm really excited I'm doing this show, and it's not just like, let's just talk about comics. It's like, let's talk about my comic. And like, it's weird to break down and give behind the scenes and give a story without giving away too much. Like it's such a weird thing to say, like, what's your book about? And you're like, well, it's about a lot of things. But if I say like too many things, then I basically just given you the whole book. And then, so anyways, the whole point to say is I'm babbling to say that I prepared for this. So book one is all about Apollo. He is sort of the main protagonist of the story. He is a soldier in a war. So the whole book is about a place called, I'm getting all my words mixed up. Magna. It is. I draw it in the manga style, and I almost said manga, but Magna is the name of the planet, and it's your background there, which is one of my favorite images that I've ever drawn. It's actually the image that inspired the entire sort of story, was me having this image in my mind of this planet that's like split in half and literally like held in place by these like metal rods because of the separation of the planet. But so he's a soldier fighting a war. And he is knocked unconscious and sort of recovered and has no memory of who he is or the world. It's one of my favorite tropes because there's this fun, like, he is learning the world with you. Like, you're new to this story, and so is your hero. Like, I really love that feel of a book or a story where, like, even the person that you're feeling the story through and getting the narrative through is also new to the story. And that's kind of what inspired me to like throw that in there. But he's picked up by these group of people called the Forsaken, who are kind of basically not on either side of the war. Their thing is they kind of don't believe in the war itself at all, but by the means of the world, they are still soldiers because, like, in a world that is completely covered in war, like you kind of have to live the way you have to live. And then the whole story is told through the lens of like this group and how he joins that group and who he becomes for that group, and then how he sort of makes that difference through that thing.
Well, I think that's absolutely awesome. Now, I was looking at Oberon, and I was thinking to myself, gosh, like you even got a video for this now or whatnot, which I thought was really awesome. I wasn't able to find. Did you make a video for the?
No, I did not make a video for the first one.
All right, so the second one, I'm looking at the video and I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, so you get this Oberon character. He looks like a badass. Clearly got a little bit of a soldier vibe going on and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But clearly we're not following Apollo. But is Apollo going to be connected to Oberon?
Yeah. So okay, now I almost said a complete spoiler for the first book there, but
don't do that.
Yeah, Oberon is like probably one of the most important characters, but the story itself is never actually told through his lens, and that's why I called the second book Oberon. It's not actually about him. It's about the other two characters, which is Mars and Apollo, who are kind of like the buddy cop main antagonists of it all, and who they are because of him.
Okay. So the good thing though is that it's got that connection. So that's a 3-book series. 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3. Okay. I just want to make sure I got it right. So 3 book. I had a rough day today, brother. I had to help sub. That was
awesome.
that is why I have freedom normally in my office, and I had to sit through a journalism classroom for 7 hours. That is just not awesome. I'm still recollecting. Anyway, as I was saying before, I like how they have that connection in the 3-book series, and I'm a series kind of guy. So when I read something, like if I really like it, I'm like, I'm gonna need a little bit more. I'm gonna need more story here, and that's one of the things that I was really looking for. You know what I mean, when it came to, analog missions. Essentially number 2 with Oberon is that I think that's going to shed a lot more of your story on these people. I think everybody's just going to absolutely dig it. There's no reason not to. I tell you what I did for you though, because I'm a huge fan, is if you look at the bottom of the screen, guys, I actually have the link to the Kickstarter for this, and I'm also going to stick it in the chat too, guys, to make sure that you guys jump in there. It looked like you made your goal by $100.
Yep. Yeah, we are at the goal. We're already playing with stretch goals. I made some bookmarks of the actual cover because I made bookmarks last time as a tier, and then after learning how to make them, I was like, I kind of want to just. I have this. I say this now, and I probably shouldn't, but like I want to give everyone a bookmark regardless. But we're going to our stretch goal, which is 1250, because I made these really cool bookmarks, and I really want to. I love the idea of the Kickstarter being not just about the project, but about the whole thing, and like thanks to the support and all this stuff, that because these books don't get made without this happening. Like I would not be able to just print a large print run of a book like this without the support from the people who throw it at me. And so like I'm just really excited about. I've got a sticker I started drawing already. I've got bookmarks. I got a lot of little fun little swag stuff that I can't wait to throw in if I kind of keep going above and beyond the goal here.
Well, so we're all about helping you get there. One of the great things about Phoenix Comics, and one of the things I wanted to do when I started this business and when I started building my team, was to make sure that like we took local creators, if you will, and we built them up. And so that they're staples of Kansas City, essentially, Kansas City metro area. They're staples of that. So, you don't just know, your DCs and your Marvels, which is great and all.
Right.
Like, I want people to come in and see like these independent books that have an amazing story, and probably will take you a whole lot farther than I see that Wolverine's beating the shit out of this other guy, and I'm pretty sure he kicked his ass like, I don't know, last year. Also.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I said, there's not a lot of like originality hardly anymore in the big runs. And so that's why we've always pushed, independent books so much, is because there's so much to get, and there's so much creativeness, and stuff like that. And once again, that's really what made us a big fan of you. That and you're a teacher, so that makes you cool automatically, obviously, and stuff like that. So, like I said, we wanted to make sure that, we backed you up, dude. I mean, totally backed you up.
You guys are actually, I talk about you guys all the time behind your backs. So just so you know, but you guys are like, I love you're the whole format of your shop, and the vibe that you guys give out it's just like an awesome, like that you're there for the love of it and the support of it, and not just to be putting out whatever the flashiest next book is on the shelf or whatever trend there is. Like I remember coming to your shop the first time and seeing the literal whole right side of your store is just the indie wall. Like I love that. It's what I want to see when I come into a comic shop, because it's true. It's what got me into comics is reading the big two back in, probably mid 90s, maybe a little bit later, going to like the old used bookstore with my dad. He'd go like find his books and throw us in the kids corner, and I'd read like Green Hornet and all the other random things that just got thrown aside. And it's what has given me the passion for comics as a media. But like for me, and I always make the joke that like the big two are gateways into the comics. Once you're in there, like the good stuff is underneath the surface, and there's so much really good indie gritty awesome stuff from creators that just like should be getting more love, but because they're not making a superhero book. It's just not happening.
Right. And, I think, I think the movie industry is actually starting to pick up on the fact that, um, you've had your run for Avengers. You can only jack Batman up so many times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And of course, clearly you saw the DC. DC is going to stop their print runs in June. That's the rumor.
I heard the same rumor too, and I didn't know if they meant like print runs like floppy style or print runs like all together, or like if they're going to go digital, or what the plan is there.
So I read an article over there, Bleeding Cool, and basically what they were saying is that, like, obviously they're going to be keeping, they're going to be keeping like Detective Comics on the wall, and they're going to be keeping, like a Superman on the wall and a Wonder Woman on the wall. But like, I'm not digging anybody else's book. You know what I mean? If I hit on this, but I'm just going to say, like, Hawkman books don't sell, bro. Green Lantern doesn't sell. It's almost like they get a good artist, but they can't get a good writer, or they get a good writer and they can't get a good artist. And for me, I'm from the 90s. I'm a collector from the 90s. So, well, 80s, 90s. I don't want to make myself too terribly bad, but I really ate a lot of the story. I mean, look at like Spawn and stuff like that. There's a lot of great story for that. So anyway, they're keeping the basics from what we've heard. But now, like, a new link came out, and I haven't got an opportunity to fact check it. But this new link is coming out saying that it's all going to dry up, in June. And they're talking about, pushing towards these big box stores to sell comics. And I don't know. I think that Mysterio about, going to a comic book shop and coming to a shop like ours and walking through the door and it being like, a whole new world. We don't, the only thing we talk about is comics.
Right.
That's all we talk about. And we really try and leave, the rest of our baggage, outside the door. But I want people to be able to do that. But, unfortunately, I mean, big box stores, they don't care. They don't care one bit.
Oh yeah. I remember when I first moved here looking for a good comic shop, I ended up for a couple months going to those Vintage Stock, like, does comics now and stuff. And it was like, I just needed a place, and there was one up the street. So I like went in there a couple times, and it was just like, I couldn't even ask a simple question about comics, not even like get into a fun conversation or a deep conversation. Like, I was just trying to be like, hey, I thought like blah, blah was out this week, or, or this one, like I was kind of looking for, and they'll just like look at you like, what? Like, yeah, we have comics in the back. And you're like, oh, okay, thanks, man. Like, it's like they didn't even hear you're like, oh, okay. Like it's like you said, it's because like you don't have people who are passionate about the thing running the thing. And that's always what, it's like someone who is in it fully running the industry of it is, I mean, it's why comics is so great, and it's why I love it. I mean, growing up too, and still as an old man, I like skateboarding is another one of those big things that's been a big part of my life. And it's because I think that same thing is what drove me into it. It's an industry completely run by the people who also do it. Like the skate brands and the things are all run by actual pros and stuff. Like you don't go into a skate shop and it's the same thing. You leave all the baggage at the door. It's all about skateboarding, and then you leave. And it was like, it wasn't just going to pick up a new deck because you broke it. It was the place to hang out with. And, and comics is that same vibe for me. And it's what's drawn and attracted me, and why your guys' shop is so awesome.
Well, I mean, you really want to bring in the people that are like-minded of you. The whole idea is to have those people feel, comfortable and not feel like, okay, well, you got, some muscle bound jockey looking guy, come into the shop, you know what I mean? And they'd be like, well, I'm almost too afraid to say I like Batman, you know what I mean? Cause I don't know everything about Batman. And that is not how you're supposed to feel when you walk into a comic book shop. Obviously, yeah. You've heard the Robin story, which is the reason why Phoenix exists. And if you haven't, I'll tell you, I'm sure everybody else is, watching, they've heard the Robin story, a million times, but, the Robin story is what, got me to do that, because, I never want anybody to feel like apprehensive about, having whatever conversation about, whatever character fighting whatever character. I don't care. Let's work this out. Can Spider-Man beat the Hulk? I mean, yeah, Cosmic Spider-Man can, but let's work it out. So like I said, it was really important for me for people to feel like super comfortable, in the shop. You know what I mean? And so that's the vibe, and that's why it's there, and that's why we have cool books like Analog Missions. Now, speaking of other cool stuff, obviously we've been really trying to push our YouTube really hard. And I almost forgot about this. I know it's bad, but I'd rather be drawing.
Yeah.
On YouTube. So, like, how long have you been doing that, dude?
So it has. I'll just use it. I'll be completely upfront with that. It's been dead for probably since quarantine hit. Me and the partner who use it, kind of like that hit us both really hard, and our schedules just completely did not cross. We've had the channel for probably about a year, 2 years maybe now. We used to do a live show every Monday. Just get on. It was just an art check where it was just like we would talk about what we were doing for the week. And everything in between. But we've been talking about what it looks like to kind of revive that, bring it back in, and kind of make it happen. Because as you know, running a YouTube channel is not as easy as it looks from the other end, which is just a video just pops in there every once in a while. There's a lot of back end work to that kind of thing. And we had found some of it taking away from our time to actually make the comics and make the art. Because when you're an independent artist like this, you are everything. You're the PR manager, you're the content creator, you're doing the job of a lot of different people, and you got to like figure out what's best for you as a creator and like that kind of flow. And so it still exists. There's some awesome videos on there. I mean, if anybody ever likes to hear two dudes talking about comics and what they're doing, there's over 50 episodes of a nice little like live about just like this format, just me and him talking about our stuff and working through our issues and all that kind of stuff. And me basically talking about different concepts of art and drawing and things that have come up as being a teacher and kind of what I've learned and gleaned from all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's a really good, it's a good thing. And yeah, go follow it because it's going to come back to life and it'll have some really good stuff here in a good minute. But
I went ahead and posted the link on here for everybody in the comment section. And also if you see the ticker's running it too. So I wanted to make sure that, like I said, I got that out for everybody and everybody got an opportunity to go like and subscribe. And, for those of you guys that are watching, my Facebook channel for Phoenix Comics, like I said, that'd be really awesome if you guys go and like, I'd rather be drawing, and then also like and follow, Phoenix Comics. That would be absolutely fantastic. That would be really good for us. And we can continue to do shows like this because, to be honest with you, as creepy as it is, I'm sitting in my basement doing a show about comic books. So,
I'm sitting in the basement too, but I forgot my green screen, so you can just see my creepy basement behind me.
But it's totally cool. We'll play like it's green screen. It's
a fake creepy basement.
Yeah. I actually have that image for Mr. McCobb's.
Yeah,
it's almost exactly the same. So I want to move to the next screen here. So we got number 7, Oberon, Apollo, and Mars. So we've talked a little bit about Oberon. We've talked a little bit about Apollo, but we haven't really said anything about how number 7 connects with the book and how Mars is connecting with the book. And before you even go into it, what I'd like to do is I'd like to play the Analog Missions video that you guys made, and then maybe we can explain those characters. What do you think?
Yeah, right on, man. Go for it.
All right, man. Dude, I gotta say, I love the manga style.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, and I'm just gonna come out and say that I'm not a big manga guy, but I gotta tell you that I like the style of art. I like how really original it is. I think
Thanks, man. So kind of like back to one of our other conversations actually about the whole like it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. Like when you decide to make comics, like it really takes time to figure it out and work through a story. This story is not my first comic, and I've written many before, and they were all much smaller. They're like short stories, little things I never even published, didn't even let people in the world see. I made them just for me or for whatever sake of just like getting something out on a paper. Because one of the first lessons I learned about making comics when I decided this was going to be a thing is you're not making comics if you're not making comics. and it's like you can't just sit there in your basement and say you're a comic maker if you're not like actually in the middle of making a comic. But I knew like the first thing that I made wasn't going to be worth going full out, make a Kickstarter, let's go, the world needs to see this. And I knew I was gonna have a bunch of trial runs, and I made a couple of different ones. A few of them were published on our website before it completely crashed on us, actually, which is like another fun bummer. The I'd Rather Be Drawing thing has been hitting a lot of bumps here in 2020. We hit this, I don't know what happened, but like our client updated before like the WordPress updated or something, and then the two didn't like each other, and I had to just completely start from scratch. So now our landing page, I just like put together really quick so it wouldn't be a nothing when you tried to visit our website. But we used to have a lot of those little web comics and things that me and Scott Green, he's my partner, like kind of just did for fun, just to get out there. But one of them was we both did this thing called a comic diary, which is you take 5 days and 5 pages and you draw a page a day and you like just make the story through like a week. Like you start on Monday and then you try to make a comic for the whole week, basically. And that was my first attempt at like taking a little short story I had in my head and putting it down on paper. And it actually turned out kind of awesome. And when I look back at it, I still love the story. I hate the art because it's so long ago, but I love the story still. And then I did another one, which is called A Boy and His Bike. And actually I have this is like a really big moment for me. This was the first one that I ever I printed and stapled and saddle stitched this myself. So this is the very first copy that I made, and I framed it as like a reminder of like I finally put something together kind of thing. It sits on my drawing desk to kind of remind me of it. But I took that to Planet. It was my 3rd year doing Planet. I made 50 copies of it and I sold out before the end of Planet.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Just this little $2 floppy that I just like basically printed myself to just be like, let's try to see what happens. And it was after making that one that I was really like, okay, I think it's time to buckle down and think of one of these bigger stories that I've been writing for a while. And Analog Missions happened because my like kind of style of drawing when I'm not drawing like fan art and that kind of thing is like I draw these weird robots. I draw these like very human like anamorphous sort of like things that are just like I kind of draw a figure, but then I turn things into weird cloth and gears and masks and stuff. And so I was like, I drew Apollo, and it's the image that's on the cover of the book. I drew that like. And it like really hit with a lot of people at one of my conventions where like a bunch of people were asking about it. I wanted to know more about it and like who that character was. And I was like, oh, that's just Apollo. It's just like a random character that I made just kind of for fun. And then I realized like that was it. I needed to take these robots and I needed to like build the whole world, and they needed to become the characters in the story that I was like actually going to put out there and publish and make into a thing. And then my style just naturally turned into this, like you said, like manga thing, because my inspirations laid out on a platter is the 90s, which is funny that we're doing this for the Retro Rewind and that you invited me, because like my literal, as you can see from the book, my inspirations are like Akira, like the anime that like hit in America during the 90s, and then like a lot of those like things I talked about, which is like those late 90s DC and Marvel, those runs. But then there was those random mangas that I would pick up where I'd be like, here's this really weird obscure thing, or this Studio Ghibli movie or whatever thing. And it's like, how do I love all these things that are so different?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's okay to be eclectic. I know that I'm eclectic. It's just like one of those things where, like, when you walk in, obviously the nickname Ricktator, I mean, it sticks for a reason. But when you walk in, and you see somebody like me and the attributes I possess characteristically, you know what I mean? You're like, how does this guy own a comic book shop? You just have to be, super eclectic rather. And Barrett, I went ahead and posted this up here, but it says, believe it or not, that whole "you're not writing unless you're writing" thing is a huge obstacle to overcome. I don't know how you do it, but what I will tell you is that I started doing something, especially with the pandemic. This pandemic has gotten so many people down. It's been a big kick in, the sack, dude. And one day I woke up, I'm like, I'm not a victim anymore. It's not happening. I'm going to the gym. I'm going to run. I'm going to social distance. I'm going to wear my mask. I'm going to be a responsible person. You know what I mean? But I'm not getting any fatter. I'm not, I'm not gonna, not do anything anymore. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna hide behind the tree anymore and hope I don't get shot at, proverbial thing. I'm done. I'm done doing it. And so what I started doing is that I made a list of all these stories that I remember, which is indicative to my book. But and I write a story a day. They all go together. Like, even if I don't, I'm like, oh my God, I don't even want to write this today. Like, I make myself write one. So like, how do you do that? Like, how do you get past that level where you're like, God, dude, I have to trudge on. Like, what gets you there?
So what you just said is actually super real for me. Like, you'd say, so I was actually planning to release this Kickstarter of the book kind of closer to Planet and kind of like in that wheelhouse and like really like lay it out there and make this happen much earlier in this year. Yeah. But it was the same thing. You'd think that like seclusion is great for an artist, but it's not. Like, for me as an artist, like I get my inspiration from the world and from like the experiences and all that like thing. Like, I'm a huge extrovert, so my passion comes from bumping into people and having conversations like these and getting all that kind of stuff happening. So I hit the same thing you did, and then eventually I was like, what am I doing here? I have a book. I got a thing. Like, I got a passion. I got to get myself back into this thing. But it just I reminded myself that I used to have a flow. The problem was when I go to work, like, it's easy for me to get myself up, go to school, get to my classroom. I'm a creature of habit 100%. And my habits just got completely destroyed. And so I was like, I need to start acting like I have a job. Like, I need to wake myself up. I need to like get back into like the flow of things. And like and because what I do is on a normal day where I have responsibilities, I wake myself up an hour earlier than I'm supposed to. And I use that time to draw. That is my morning comics time. Like, I go into my classroom an hour before school starts and I sit at my desk, and that is where that is when I get my work done. Like, my studio time for me is the morning before people bother me and before I get way too into running into this classroom and trying to be friendly and stuff. And right. So I just reminded myself that like routines are so important, and like I just got myself back into that thing by doing that. Because like you said, I 100% agree with that comment that actually it's a big obstacle to get over that, because you have to find it in your routine when it wasn't in your routine. You have to make it a part of your routine. The very first time that I ever did, like 3 or 4 years ago, when I really said like, this is my thing, I watched this podcast about this guy talking about scheduling your time and what you do with your life. And I wrote down every hour and everything that I did in my day for a week to find the time to do drawing. It was like, if this is really a thing that you care about and really a thing that you want to put into your time, literally write down that hour that you just watched Netflix and that hour that you just literally sat on your couch and all of a sudden it was 3 and then it was 5 because you were like just flipping through your phone. And I was like, I mean, I found 20 hours plus a week that I could have been making comics that I was just basically doing nothing.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, like, I don't know if you're a big Arnold Schwarzenegger fan or The Rock fan or anything like that, or Jocko or David Goggins or any of those super motivating, individuals, but they talk about, they literally have a broke down schedule of, how they do things, like how long they sleep, how long family time, the 30 different things that they do in a day. They work out in the morning and in the afternoon. You see them saying they like do all these extra things, and you're like, oh my God, where do they find time? Well, where they find time is when we're sitting on our tuchus, you know what I mean, doing absolutely nothing. And just like, as you said, you have to take that time. You have to push. I also do my writing the same way. Is that like, I'll sit down and I got morning paperwork that I do. And I just sit down. I'm like, I got to do it. I have to do it. I have to get it done. And, that's where we are. Now, Jared's got a great question. He says, what has you most excited about the next book? I mean, like, what's like.
Actually, a panel that I literally just finished drawing last night that I'm going to be sharing pretty soon has me very excited for the book. So the thing in book 1 was like, I really just set up this world. I mean, like when you create like a sci-fi where like the rules are the same, but they're very different, you have to build a structure where you're still telling your story, but your story is telling everybody about what's happening in the world. Because like are these people robots? Like, what am I looking at? Like, who are these? Like, who is that character? And what is that character? And like, what rules exist for them that exist for me? And like that kind of thing is like a really weird thing to wrestle when you're like building a world, as you know, as a writer. Like you have to tell the story and not tell them what's happening in the story. Like it's like those are two different things.
Right.
And that's actually part of that that style where I make it's in my Kickstarter too, and I say that it's a combination of comic and prose writing. And you put the image up earlier, and it was of like the old analog looking like VCR TV. Mm-hmm. I made that style of like page break things where there's like a whole paragraph like that. Yeah, there was. So there's like a paragraph of actual just like prose writing story between each chapter. This was very inspired by 90s like Cowboy Bebop and the old like weird analog sci-fi stuff that they do. Right. To be like a fun way of reading about my story without my characters in the story literally just being like, oh, the rule for this thing is. And so I created this cool format of like you're almost like popping in this historical tape that tells you a little bit about the world, and then you're jumping back into the story. And each thing tells you some little bit of information that's important for the next chapter or thing that's happened previously in the book. But that was a long-winded way of saying that what I'm excited about is that I'm opening up the world even more. Like there are parts that I tell in these little TVs of the first book about like Nation 6 and who these two sides of the war were and sort of like that kind of thing. And I get this chance to show that thing. Like you haven't even seen the actual big bad guy yet or any of these things from the first book. You've seen like you said, who's number 7, that character you showed on that other slide. He's one of the 7 generals. They're just the henchmen of the actual like real like bad guy to this whole story. And like that's like this thing where I have the whole second chapter basically is this like, what does this Nation 6 look like, and who are these characters and that kind of thing. And I'm really excited to like be able to tell that part of the story.
I think that's almost the best part of the story is making it really, really, climactic. You know what I mean? Like it's you get an opportunity to get a new part of the story. It's building into a whole nother story. And me personally, like when I read, I like just this explosion of, okay, but where did that character go? And I think that's pretty cool, especially when you're saving, and I think that's a little old school anyway, is you're saving the boss for the end of the show.
Oh yeah.
The boss is the last guy you fight. So I really like that. Now, can you see these when I post these?
Yeah.
All right, so I agree with Jared here. The hustle with Kickstarter is super refreshing. It's never the same pitch, which, like I said, I absolutely agree with. I like the fact that, you and, even Chris, which eventually, maybe we'll get an opportunity to have him on the show also. But you guys are already like serving the public as it is. You see what I'm saying? And then you turn around and you're hustling on top of, and I know you're working your ass off. I know for a fact it is, because all my friends are teachers too, and having a hybrid schedule and virtual schedules and stuff like that. Brother, you are a dang on rock star. I'm going to tell you that right now. So I actually really value people with hustle. Somebody that you can rely on, somebody that's loyal, but somebody that like hustles. And for any other reason in the whole entire world, you hustle for you're hustling for, this dream that you have. And I think that just makes you, an awesome human being, for having that hustle. So, definitely agree with, with Jared on this, dude. I mean, because it is refreshing to meet somebody that's willing to bust ass and get shit done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No doubt. So you sent me this image. I totally dig it. But in this image here, you kind of want to give me like the breakdown, because it looks like Apollo and Oberon are starting to clash here.
Actually, so that's exactly the vibe that I wanted to put out. But this is actually the first time they've met. So this is Apollo waking up after sort of like getting knocked out, and the first person that he sees is Oberon. And this is kind of them locking eyes, because I wanted this feeling to come of like, are they friends or are they foe? Like, are they enemies? Like, what thing is between them? And that's even the conversation that ensues after this, is that he's like, weren't we just fighting a war? Like, I don't really remember anything, but like, you just saved me, and you don't even know who I am. Like, how do you know you didn't just save the enemy, basically?
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, and that kind of is a big trope of this first book too, is like, I'm not going to judge you until you give me a reason to judge you. Like, you give me a reason not to trust you, and we'll go from there. But until then, like, you're my friend, kind of thing.
The cool thing about that is that typically in your writing, especially when you write something like this, and most writers, and I already think you're cool, so I'm a little biased. But, you know, that frame of mind is a soldier's frame of mind, and it's not necessarily like, you know, enemy, good guy, bad guy. It's never black and white like that. There's so much gray involved in that, and so when you don't really know where the lines are and the lines have been blurred, having that mindset or writing that mindset in this type of aspect is really awesome to me, because I think like this. I give people an opportunity to be a good person, and if they're not a good person, then I know that, you know, I need to discard them. But I want to give people that opportunity to you know, jack it up, if you will. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
I like how you wrote that that way. I think that's important. You know what I mean?
That so what you just said there too is kind of like back to kind of why I write, like why I tell stories, is because I want to put parts of myself in the things that I believe and I feel are like strong, like things that other people like maybe never even had this thought of for another person to read in a book and get this like thing. And that's why I love comics and I love sci-fi and I love this media, because instead of it being this like autobiography where I preach what I believe to other people and tell them that they're wrong if they don't, or whatever other thing, it's like I get to tell this really cool story with this crazy world, but really what I get to do is mix in, like you said, like the parts of me that are important and that I really feel like other people can get value from and stuff. And it's just like, it's what makes telling people what the story is about so hard, is because as the writer, I know all these little moments that I'm like, this is a really good moment. I loved writing this moment, but like, but what's the actual plot and what's happening in the book? Oh, that's different. That's this. Like,
right.
But every page is like handcrafted by me to matter. Like so it's a 50-page book, and that's a whole other conversation that I'll start to trail off on, which is I knew I wanted to make a book and not a floppy. I knew I wanted this to be a thing that when I made the first book, I could call it a book, and it wasn't like, and this is once again, no like hate on or like jab at comics and what they are. But I think it's part of why the medium is what it's doing, and why DC is probably being so like, I don't know if we can keep printing these and that kind of thing, because when you make a floppy, it just becomes this thing where you read it, you love it, you either collect it or it goes back in a white box and like almost like never touched again. And I was like, no, I want this to be a thing where this book sits out on a table and they're like, check out that awesome indie thing that this creator made that I grabbed from you or whatever. But I mean, I there's about from those 50 pages, like 45 are story, and each of those pages is handcrafted. I think of every page flip. Like, if this doesn't fit yet, and I need you to turn the page and then see this, like things move around and change, so that like even this one is like a reveal from a page flip from one page of like this really weird, mysterious thing happening. And then it ends with him like putting the mask on, and it's like this blacked out panel, and you flip and it's this, and it's like you said, then it's this, is there conflict here, or are they friends? Like, what just happened here? And then you have to like really dig your brain into the story more.
Right. Well, so I think that's absolutely awesome. And I think you're right. We've moved on. I think in books is that everything's either a number one or a first appearance, or, you know, Wolverine said, you know, whatever this first time, or Batman sneezed in a book for the first time ever, stupid thing like that. And then of course, then it comes back to like the cover, or Albuquerque, or you know, he did the cover, or we got Frank Cho covers, or you know, Scotty Young covers. The thing is that like no one's really focused on what's going on inside the book. You know what I mean? And you really don't get an opportunity to sell that story. Whereas you have something that is a book, which I've over the years, I've probably moved more towards, you know, trades and graphics, because I want to read it. Like, obviously, listen, good art is a great garnish to, a great meal. You know what I mean? The art is good, that rolls you along, but that story, I think that story all the way around is so important. And it's funny that I say that now. So Ray wants to know if you prefer writing or drawing more, and if you had your choice of working with somebody after Volume 3, who would you be your dream, your dream team up? I mean, obviously there's somebody that you've always wanted to work with.
That's an interesting story. Dream team up, I guess, is like literally shoot for the stars dream. Like, who are my favorite writers and who are my favorite artists doing it right now?
Right.
My all-time favorite writer is Rick Remender. I have never not just like loved what he wrote in a series of any kind, and not just like the minute I put it down, wanted to just open it right back up and read right back through it, because of what I just said too. When I read through his books, you can tell there's like a part of him in that thing, and like you read parts of a story and the way he spins a story, and it's just like every page matters, it feels like, to the way he writes. And he always teams up with amazing artists. I never know if I say it right, but Black Science is one of my all-time favorite like Image comics, and it's him and Mateus Calera, I think is how you say his name.
Okay, yeah. I'm familiar with Black Science. Yeah.
It is just like, to me, that is the dream team. The two of them, his art with his writing is like this perfect pairing. It's just like I love his loose, but also like tight, thick brush strokes and like gray tone, like really strong, heavy gray tone work. That like when it's colored, there's a certain vibe to it that that he like inked it a certain way. Mm-hmm. And like his inks are like freaking amazing. Like if I ever was at a convention and he was there, like, take all of my money. I need a commission from him.
Well, that's funny that you say that. So, hard lines are literally like my thing. I blame my OCDs for that. So I love, the hard lines, but I like, once again, the I don't know the proper term for this, but like kind of like the broken lines, you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
maybe like, I don't want to say not so straight, but like it adds a little bit of abstract, essentially, to the art. I'm a huge fan, probably more than I should be, of black and white. I love black and white. I think black and white is where it's at. Most of my tattoos are black and white. I prefer black and white. I do have some color in some of my tattoos, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. But like, if I had a choice between getting a black and white or something that had color to it, obviously I would always go black and white. I just it's something about the art that like really drives it home. You know what I mean?
There's this high contrast that you get with black and white, that you can still get high contrast with color, but you lose this, like, the darkest of darks is black and the lightest of lights is white. And so once you start to play with color, the contrast changes a little bit. Right. And I actually found out later in life, and I'm still trying to figure it out all exactly, but they tell me that I'm a little bit colorblind to certain hues and things. So I think it's probably part of why I prefer it. Like, my wardrobe I wear the same. When I find a pair of pants that I love, I buy 4 of them, and it's black. I find a pair of black pants that fit me well every year, and I buy like 4 pairs, and that's what I don't wear anything but black pants and usually a gray or whatever neutral color shirt. Like, I'm not a color guy either, even with my wardrobe, my everyday life.
See, there's nothing wrong with that, man. I like I said, I'm a solid color kind of guy myself too. So, obviously, like I bring a little bit of color too, but I'm more of a reds and blues, blacks and grays kind of guy.
Yep.
Myself. So, like I said, I like a solid color. I think that's what that really, like, drives it home for me, as far as the art is concerned and stuff like that.
Yeah. There's a couple of Image books that I've read too. I'm trying to think of the name of the other one, but they do this single tone color thing that I really like. It's not even like monochromatic. It's like they add just one single shade of color through the whole book for their shadows and stuff, almost like I do a screen tone, but instead it's like a red, and that red is just like laid out in certain areas throughout the book. And I really love that kind of style too, because it's like you said, it's just a single pop of thing, and it's almost like they use it to drive you through like certain pages and like as you read the panels.
So that's funny that you say that. So obviously, you know what I mean, I already have somebody working on some of the art for my jam or whatever, and my jam is law enforcement related, obviously, and so everything is black and white. Everything's black, white, and grays except for there is a for the law enforcement entity that's involved. There's a blue outline, and then there's your fire guys would have like a red outline, and everybody's really just kind of like got an outline. It's black and white essentially, but it's that outline that really just kind of drives home essentially the character. And I like those things because it's not necessarily looking for facial features as opposed to shadows and stuff like that, but it like has those specific colors that draw your eye to them, but then helps you continue to read on. I think like I said, that all of that is really important when it comes to a really great book.
Yeah, definitely.
So in this image here, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, obviously we got Oberon here, but then this character that's essentially on the bottom here. Who is that?
Okay, so this first scene here is actually a flashback to Oberon when he was younger. So, and this is another fun aspect of the sort of who these characters are and what they do. So when you are born in this world, the things they wear is called their bodysuit. Mm-hmm. And they all have a mask, and their mask is important too. There's like different types of mask. There's a whole stuff that I could go into that's all behind the scenes of like this crazy, super intricate thing. But the idea is,
then they would know.
Right. The idea is that the maker creates these suits for the children when they're born, but they can only wear this suit until basically they come of age. And then when they're like a teenager, they have to like be gifted their next like suit. And so like I made this up actually as a fun trope of there's a lot of the time travel aspect in my book of like this happened in the before time and this happened in the after time, like that kind of thing. And right. So whenever you're seeing the past, they have their different like masks, and whenever you see them in the future, they have their sort of like full like, and that way there's like a really easy way of me playing with like Oberon, Mars, and Apollo all had a specific right. mask before they came of age, and it changes just ever so slightly when they get older.
Right. It's almost like I said, the whole coming of age thing or whatnot. It gives you that opportunity to segue into somebody helping you walk through life as opposed to walking through life on its own. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. But this is actually, I love this. This is another one of those, as you know, when you write a story, you usually have like certain scenes that have to happen. Like mm-hmm. This scene will happen exactly like this. I don't know what will get them there, but I know that this scene's going to happen. And this was a scene I had in my mind for a while. And this is Mars telling the story of when he first met Oberon. And he basically is getting bullied for being a different type of bodysuit than the rest of them, and Oberon kind of jumps in and sort of like these are literally just the school bullies, and he is beating them up right now.
Dude, I absolutely love that, man. It looks like so I took this image for us. I don't know, late last week or whatnot. And obviously, it's considerably different. You guys can actually see the link to contribute to the Kickstarter. Now you guys can go up there. It's like over $1,100. It's probably going to be a little bit more. I suck. I've been busy, so I'm been jumping on there. So on the retail side to get that done, stuff like that. So we're going to carry them here at Phoenix Comics, and I'm hoping that we can get you into the shop. I'll buy you a spacesuit if need be.
Yeah, we'll go full Bubble Boy.
Yeah, whatever. I'll ship them to you. I don't care, whatever you want. And then just have you sign them for everybody, because I really honestly think that, moving forward with a story like this, I think if we get an opportunity to get it out there and push it really hard, that somebody's going to want to pick this up, man. And this is something that like would be a cool movie if they did it right to watch. I mean, I would totally dig watch. I would go to this movie. I would totally go to this movie.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
I think you could see some badass dudes. You'd have a pretty good, character line or whatnot going on. You know what I mean? And some really good stories, and I could see it, going on. And like I said, being a good run. And I know that as far as Phoenix Comics is concerned, we're always going to keep you on the shelf anytime we possibly can. for obviously numerous reasons. One, because you're freaking awesome and you're a good person, and two, you write a really great book, man. So
yeah, I appreciate that, man. But it just to that vein too, like there is plenty more to come here. So I know that this presents itself as a 3-book run, but there is more to this than just that. Analog Missions as a sort of arc is 3 books, but there's more. There's more to come.
Good.
I'm with you. I love a series and I love an epic, but I also don't love not getting like closure from certain events until super late. So I've written this in chunks so that like you could stop reading it after Analog Missions and you'd be pretty satisfied with it, but you definitely would want more. Like I've kind of purposely, it's kind of how I played with my story. I mean, modern comics does that too. I mean, it's like 6 issues creates a story arc and then you move on from there. But I'm just kind of playing with that in a different format since I'm playing with 50 pages at a time. So basically every 150 pages will be an arc that should sort of give you a closure to one part of a story, but also like leave you wanting for more.
So I think that's good though. I mean, people like a routine and people like something to continue reading and stuff like that. I mean,
yeah.
Pick a TV show, pick a movie, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Like I said, they just want it to keep going because it's that good.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think you're doing a great job. Obviously, we don't want you to, forego your peers program by any means. But you know what I mean? It is definitely something good to, supplement, as you go and stuff like that. So hopefully, in time, like I said, we'll continue to see some great stories out of you, man.
Really. Oh yeah, I will not stop writing, and it's probably a part of why I am able to drive myself the way I am. Like back to kind of the conversation, like how do you do it? How do you keep yourself going? I make it no matter what. Like if the first Kickstarter didn't fund, I had a backup plan. And if this one didn't fund, like I wasn't going to not put this book out there. I mean, there's still digital distribution. There's still so many different ways to get things. Like I'm making this story for me. And the fact that other people are enjoying it is just a bonus. And I think that's probably the number one. How do you do it? If you feel like you can't get started, you got to make sure you're making it for you. And you got to make sure what you're writing is something that you're passionate about and isn't just like, jumping on the trend or the bandwagon because you're going to burn out on that for sure.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Ray wants to know if you're going to do a prequel. You know what I mean? Something to dive a little bit more into the lore, or is that something that's already on the back burner, ready to rock?
So yeah, I mean it's not necessarily a secret. I just haven't had the chance to say that, but yes. So maybe not necessarily a prequel, but what I've kind of established, like this was not on purpose. I had a specific kind of world and a story that I wanted to build, and the more I build this, the more I realize just how intricate and like little moments where I'm like, that doesn't need to be in the book, but that's a really cool story. Like how did that character get here? Or how did that character get there? So I've been playing and toying with this idea. My dream is to make a hardback book. Like that is, and I really want to do after I do the 3rd issue, I really want to kind of, like you just said, kind of take inventory of like how much reach have I gotten with this book now? Like where are my fans at? Collect it together, but then also add another 50 pages of some other story that is like maybe like little bits that's like 8 page little stories for like, here's a little short story of Apollo and something you didn't know he did. And here's a little short story of this character and something he did over here on the left side between this time chunk. And the thing that I realized is that my series is actually not called Analog Missions. It's called Missions. And so I would call this side missions, and it would be like little short story, like snippets of things that go to the bigger story. And then I've even realized that when I get to the next set of 3 books, as I make them, I'm kind of toying with the idea of it being called Apollo Missions.
Okay.
And so like the idea is that actually the missions thing has kind of become my series, and Analog Missions is just that first chunk of that.
Well, I think it's always good to, keep on rolling. So one thing I always try to make sure I do is stay right at the hour mark, dude. So as we roll into our last, minute or so, man, what do you want these people to know about you so they're buying this book?
I want you to know everything that we've literally just talked about. I am a extremely insanely passionate, self-driven, independent creator who's a teacher who teaches art and loves art and does art on the side. And when he's like, I'm just surround myself with this all the time. I mean, this is my passion. This is my thing. I want you to follow my Instagram. Art of Mr. Fleming on Instagram, because that's how you follow my journey. Like literally as I'm making, as I'm creating, it's all up there. I like to put everything out there and really like make this a community thing. That's actually, man, see, we could do this all night. Like,
oh, sure.
But my one of my favorite parts about the book is that in the back of the book, I print fan art of other artists that are people who support me, or even just friends or random people who just love the series and the book. And it's this really fun thing where I want my books to feel like they're part of a community aspect. And it's not just, this isn't just me in my basement making a book and putting it out there every year. There's a chance every year for my fans to get into the book and become a part of it. And I've actually been toying the idea with doing some kind of writing contest. And it might even be a part of that side missions idea project to have fans write like little bits of fan fiction or things that they think could fit in my universe. And then I draw them. And it's just another way of pushing like the community into my world.
Well, community is important, man. So make sure follow the Instagram and everything like that. I will make sure that I put out the link. I actually don't think that's the correct link right after I send it out. So I get a better link than that. And so, like I said, make sure you follow my man. What's the tag for Instagram one more time?
Art of Mr. Fleming.
There you go. Art of Mr. Fleming. Make sure you guys follow him. Make sure you click that follow button, the big bell, and so you can get an opportunity to see everything that's going on. Hopefully we'll get an opportunity to see you again. I'd love to have you back on the show when we actually get to unbox it. I'd like to unbox it with you if that's possible.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love that.
Okay. And we are working on here in the future, working on like kind of like, we don't want to call it a mini con. We're going to call it maybe a swap and shopper or something like that. I don't know. But we're working on that, and we'd love to have you out, for that and give people an opportunity to come out. Our particular county is a little bit safer. So
one of the bonuses.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man, definitely. You guys know you can hit me up anytime. If it works in my schedule, then I always make time for you guys.
My man. Well, hey, listen, so we're right at the hour mark. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. David Fleming. My man, I'm the only one clapping. I think everyone's clapping, but I was looking for a great video clapping. I couldn't find it. It was
you feel like you should sample like weird like 90s studio audiences, like put up a green screen of them like
yeah. Maybe you know what? I'm gonna work on that. I like that. See what happens? Yeah, we get smart people on the show. That's what I'm talking about, man. Well, anyway, dude, thanks for stopping by, bro. I appreciate it. And like I said, have a good night, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
You're welcome, buddy. Be safe. All right, dude. So obviously the dude is awesome. I'm a giant fan. And I think if you guys get an opportunity to, make sure you guys hit us up. Make sure you guys get Analog Missions. Apollo, we got plenty of copies. And then when Oberon comes out, make sure you guys hit us up for that, because we're definitely going to hook you up. Other than that, guys, I am the Ricktator, and you have enjoyed a little bit more than an hour, sorry about that, of the Retro Rewind. I appreciate you guys, and have a good night.